for that show throughout production. And it's really important that a room lasts throughout production because that is effectively how the industry reproduced itself. When you're a young writer writing on a show that's being literally made, you would oftentimes go to set, you would learn how to talk to actors, you would learn how to stay within budget, you would learn what it was like to be on an actual set. But in a mini room that is often dispersed before a show is put into production, you don't get that experience, and you're also, might be added, you're usually employed for a far less amount of time. Traditionally, in a pilot season, writers would have been employed for like 8 months, let's say. And then it's very difficult to get another job, so you have to go back and work at the Apple store or drive Lyft, which means you're not working on your craft to the same degree, which means you're not getting the experience that you would have gotten in a traditional writer's room. So it's the industry kind of cannibalizing its future in the search for short-term and medium-term profits, which was partially the result of the entry of high finance and thus financial incentives into film and television production.
I mean, this is significant because I think that those who may not know how the industry works may hear writers in a creative industry and think, well, these people are privileged. I mean, these are not regular working people, but there are reports that there's food insecurity now within a huge contingent of writers in Hollywood who now have no work or limited work, or they're working in the way that you are describing here. What are some of the stories that you've heard?
I think that's a great point, and it reflects a broader proletarianization of creative fields. You might have also heard that many professors are mostly, roughly 3/4 of them, according to some studies, are adjuncts. And you see something happening similar in Hollywood. So when I would talk to young writers in particular, and frankly not that young, people in their 30s who had broken into the industry about 10 years ago, it's just very difficult to make a stable living. Moving from show to show is not especially easy. You're employed for a less amount of time. There are fewer people employed at each job. So you're actually not living the high life of what one would have imagined a Hollywood writer lived in the 1990s and into the 2000s, which is, again, I want to emphasize, this is just American capitalism doing what American capitalism does, except now it's coming from white-collar workers. If it happened for blue-collar workers in the 60s and the 70s, it's now happening in the last 20 years for creatives, again, journalists, academics, and Hollywood writers. So this is why I think you might get, there might be some anger from people whose fields had already been destroyed. If you were, for example, cutting timber or working in mines or working in a factory, maybe you don't want to hear about whiny Hollywood writers, but to me, we're all kind of in this together as laborers. But it is difficult work that takes a lot of skill to accomplish, and one should be properly remunerated, especially when the high-level executives are making so much money. So one thing that I hope to do for people who just view this as a bunch of Hollywood writers is to actually see that there's solidarity to be built across class lines, because if capitalism isn't coming for you today, it's coming for you tomorrow.